Happy Monday, everyone. It is July 1st, 2024. Welcome to our Oklahoma Counseling Institute Monday Lunchtime Digest. Hello, Hayley. Happy Monday.
Hello. Happy Monday, Micah.
Yeah, it's a short week for us this week. I mean, everyone, I assume, is off for the 4th of July, and then a lot of people are going to take the 5th off as well. So I hope everyone is able to have a good holiday and able to take care of themselves this week. And then we also just got done for at least Oklahoma LPCs and LADCs got done with their continuing education. Due date was yesterday. And so we were very, very busy on getting people helped and helping them get their continuing education done and things like that. So now that we have that done, Hayley, what do we have coming up now?
So we have lots of exciting things coming up. So I am very happy to say that we have our very first fall webinar scheduled. So that will be with Dr. Christine Coleman on September 7th. She'll be talking about ethics and working with the Latinx community. I am also happy to announce we have a committal from Tiffany Dilworth. She'll be joining us again in November. And so that will be the first weekend of November. I think it was the 5th. Let me look here. November 2nd, November 2nd, Tiffany Dilworth will be joining us again. She'll be talking about working with disenfranchised grief. And so we're incredibly excited to welcome her back. We also have a couple new on-demand courses available right now. One of them is our very own Terry Schuline. She presented with us earlier this year on Introduction to Sand Tray Therapy. And so if that's something you have not dabbled with before or something that you'd like to learn more about, really encourage you to check out Terry's training. It's a good 3-hour webinar approved for 3 hours of general or strength-based training. We also have another training up. So we had Lisa King join us earlier, I guess last month, 1 month ago today, and she did a training on codependency that was very well received. And it was one of my highlights when it comes to CEUs this year too. I really took a lot from it myself. And so that one is now available on demand as well. And so if any of those pique your interest, if you are starting to get your CEUs ready for next renewal season, or if you're an LCSW or LMFT and still have 6 months until your renewal is up, be sure to check those guys out. They are available on demand now. And as always, approved by the Board of Behavioral Health, LADC Board, LCSW Board, and so on.
Yeah, and as you were saying, we have the LMFTs and social workers that will need to get theirs done by December. So certainly come check us out, all that we have to offer at counselinginstitute.org. And you can find all of our continuing education there. And of course, if you have any questions about anything, you can reach out to us by email or also by phone call or text. And so as far as mental health news goes, I have a couple of things, Hayley. And there my clock is going off. It's a little bit late today. So Oklahoma City just released its mental health report. It's a 20-page report about progress that they have made on goals that they have for the city. And so you can find that in our Facebook feed. Actually, I just saw that about 5 minutes before I logged on here, so I haven't had a chance to read it. But anyway, that is there on our Facebook page. You can click on that and see the report there that was just released, about 20 pages long. And then also a recent new report about a drug, I'm not going to say this right, meditatomine, MEDETOMIDINE, medetomidine. I'm going to have to practice that. But anyway, it is being added to fentanyl in order to prolong a person's high, and is leading to overdose deaths in Illinois, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And they're finding that it's moving west. And so it may not be here in Oklahoma, but will be here soon. So unfortunately, that's just something else that we're going to have to watch out for. It's actually a tranquilizer for animals. Veterinarians use it. It's sold under the brand name Domitar, DOMITAR, and veterinary drug being added to fentanyl to prolong high, and as I've already said, leads to overdose deaths. So that's the new news that I have. Hayley, do you have any new news today?
I do have a couple of interesting stories. So one of them comes from NPR, and according to NPR, there has been an increase in ADHD diagnoses among kiddos in the last 4 years.
Mhm.
And as of right now, 1 in 9 kids have an ADHD diagnosis. And ADHD historically has been primarily diagnosed in boys. And a lot of the symptoms that clinicians watched out for were the hyperactivity, but in girls, it tends to manifest more as inattention, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been an incredible increase in ADHD symptoms among boys and girls, and we're actually starting to see those numbers level out. They're also starting to see an increase in dual diagnoses when it comes to ADHD and anxiety, or ADHD and other behavioral problems. And so it really made me wonder too. Of course, the study didn't really get into too much on how folks were assessed, or who's doing the assessments and whatnot. And it made me really think about some of the ADHD trainings I've attended, and how ADHD is often misdiagnosed or misattributed, because anxiety can look like ADHD, trauma can look like ADHD, or having trauma and ADHD symptoms. Trauma can exacerbate ADHD symptoms, or anxiety can exacerbate ADHD symptoms. And not necessarily that I have an answer to this question, but it really made me think this morning, how many of these ADHD diagnoses are, being attributed or being misdiagnosed because there is an increase in anxiety or trauma due to, the pandemic, or how many of these folks wouldn't necessarily meet criteria for ADHD diagnosis, even though they do have symptoms, but it's because of this co-occurring anxiety or trauma diagnosis that we're actually meeting criteria for ADHD. And so more just food for thought than anything. But do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts, Micah?
Well, I just know ADHD is just so convoluted, and as you say, overdiagnosed. Also, sometimes it's not discovered. So some kids walking around that have ADHD that aren't getting treatment, that has not been diagnosed. So because of that, just a while back, I quit diagnosing ADHD myself, and so I will tell I don't work with little kids anymore, mainly with adults, but even with adults, I say, hey, ADHD, is that something you've heard of? Have you ever considered it? Yes, no. And I tell them, well, you might want to, get evaluated for that. And I give them the two options. I say, you can either have a psychologist evaluate that. They'll give you inventories, testing, and things like that. Or you can go to a medical practitioner and talk with them, preferably a psychiatrist, and get diagnosed that way. But I've just quit diagnosing it myself because of all the things that you mentioned, how often the symptoms overlap with each other.
Absolutely. And I'd be interested to see how that research progresses over the next few years, because increasing to 1 in 9 kids at this point, that's more than 10% of kids being diagnosed with ADHD. That just seems like an incredible increase. And it just makes me wonder, not that I don't think that, ADHD has increased, but to have 1 in 9 folks have that diagnosis, that just seems really astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one study that I came across. Another one was from Science Direct. And so there was an article that was published, I believe, in the Journal of Dementia, Journal of Alzheimer's and Dementia, I'm sorry. And according to this journal, so what it has found is that, I'm sure we all are familiar with this, protective factors against the development of dementia, of Alzheimer's, are doing things that keep us busy, exercise, meeting up with friends, staying employed and things like that. I'm sure we can all tell personal experiences of loved ones or whatnot who, after they retire, after they quit, have the sharp cognitive decline. Well, according to this study, what they found is that it's kind of a balance. If you have things to do, things to look forward to, things on your plate, then that can actually, mitigate the effects of dementia. But if you have too much on your plate, if you have too much stress, if you're way too stressed at work, or if you have high cortisol levels, if you either are feeling that physiological stress or that perceived stress, that can actually undermine those effects and can actually thus increase the risk of developing dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's all a balance. We want to be busy, but not too busy. We want to have a little bit of a challenge, but not be too challenged. And so that was just some interesting food for thought too. And good for, I think, a self-reflection too. We want to stay busy, but want to make sure they're not getting too busy, or else that can also have negative effects as well.
Oh man, as you say, it's all about balance, and then how hard is that to try to be balanced in life. So thank you for that, Hayley. So we'd be curious to know what your thoughts about any of the things that we've talked about. You be sure to put them in the comments. What do you think about ADHD? Do you diagnose it in your practice? Of course, legally we can do that. But do you diagnose it in your practice, or do you just refer out? What types of inventories that you may use? What do you think about this dementia risk that we've talked about? And then also, if you've having experience with drug and alcohol, what do you think about this new drug, medetomidine? I'm going to get right eventually. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments on those things. And so, Hayley, besides that, do we have a question for the week this week?
We do have a question for the week. So the question for the week, because it's getting to be extremely hot this week, my question for the week is, do you prefer pool or lake? I feel like that's very very divisive question. So, Micah, what are you? Are you a pool fan or are you a lake stan?
Pool all the way, man. I've never been we never did the lake thing as a kid. And so, lakes don't appeal to me. Bugs and you don't know what's down there. You don't know what's under your feet. I want a crystal clean pool that I can see to the bottom. So how about you, Hayley? Pool or lake?
Understandable. Well, I know I have my kiddie pool for convenience sake on the back porch, but I think I'm more of a lake person. And I'm not like a boat swimmer.
Of course, we would be opposite on that.
Of course, we're opposite.
Yes.
I just want to be locked outside all summer, except I'd probably combust because I'm fluorescent. But I do enjoy the great outdoors and adventuring in lakes. I don't like to swim. I don't like to get very deep, but I'll at least hang out there with my floaties.
Well, and we'd love to hear from you. So answer the question of the week, pool or lake, what is your preference? And anytime that you comment, if it's on this or any other topics that we talked about, like or share a post, then you get entered into our weekly drawing where you have a chance to win a gift card to all types of exciting places, Starbucks, Subway, Bath and Body Works, whatever it might be. So we'd love for you to like and share and comment, enter a chance to win. And then, as we say, anytime that you do those things, anytime that you tell a colleague about us, you attend an in-person workshop, live webinar, or on-demand course, or tell a colleague about us, then you're helping to meet the mission of providing quality continuing education in Oklahoma. And we really thank you guys for that. So everybody have a good week. Hopefully it's a short week, and hopefully it's filled with self-care this weekend. So everyone, take care.
Stay balanced.
Stay balanced. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.